Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Wednesday, October 7th, 2020, and today we'll be taking a look at a 2020 House projection from FiveThirtyEight. So they released their presidential model, I believe, a little bit over a month ago. Then they released their Senate model, and now they've released a House of Representatives model. If you want to find this, it's on the FiveThirtyEight website. You just go to the presidential model and then click the little H at the top left of the screen. So today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the scenarios in which the Democratic Party retains the House of Representatives. Now, there's a 94% chance that they retain House control, whereas there is a 6% chance that Republicans win control back from the Democrats. Now, this is a very good position for the Democratic Party. Keep in mind, just 4 years ago, the Democratic Party was in the minority with the same exact House congressional districts. They were working with the same exact House districts, the way that they were drawn, and pretty much their entire compositions themselves. But the combination of the movement towards the Democratic Party among suburban voters and even more minority voters turning out in 2018, this environment is very favorable for the Democrats. So the Democrats have a 94% chance of victory, but let's take a look at where they actually stand in terms of House seats. Well, they averaged 237, which is probably on par with where they are today. And I will say that the Democratic Party does have a pretty strong hold on some of these traditionally swing states. Now, swing districts. Now, if you look at the forecasted House seats, the Republicans only have 154 safe seats. The Democrats, in comparison, have 192. Now, the Democrats actually reached the majority with likely districts, meaning districts that are pretty solid for the Democratic Party, where they have even a 90% chance of winning. In fact, the state at the majority position that gives the Democrats the subtle majority has a 77% chance of going to the Democrats, which means every other race after that has a lower than 77% chance, but obviously that's a very high bar to meet. If we take a look at the districts that get even closer, where the Republicans are actually currently the favorites, we take a look at some of these more competitive states, or districts, actually not states, but if we're looking at the tilt and lean Democratic areas, well, it is going to be pretty close. So here, there are 11 toss-up seats where both parties are within a 60% chance of victory. And this is actually where I think the Democratic Party is really going to be making a major play for. These 11 seats in particular are where the Democratic Party did shine through in 2018. Now, they may not have won all of these House seats that are considered competitive this time around by any means. I mean, look at Alaska. It's expected to be within 5% in Alaska. Keep that in mind. All in all, I mean, the Democratic Party is expected to do very well. And there's a reason for that. The Democratic Party in 2018 won with 8% of the vote nationwide. Right now, they're expected to win with only 6%, 5.6% rounded upwards, but that's by no means bad. I mean, we're working in a presidential election year, and if we did see a repeat of the 2018 House margin, well, we'd likely see the Democrats return to their 2008 House of Representatives numbers. Now, the thing about this is that it's very different than what we previously saw. In 2008, not 2008, in 2008 and 2010, the areas where the Democratic Party had incumbents were the South. And some parts of the Northeast were dominated by the GOP. Even Delaware went to the GOP in 2008, despite Joe Biden being from that state, served as a senator, and which solidly went to President Obama. Now, that was the factor of the incumbency, but if we're looking at the numbers now, the Democrats have moved out of the South. They don't really have a strong grip whatsoever, but they've solidified their holds in the Northeast. Take a look at New Jersey, which went from having, I think, 4 or 5 Republicans down to 1. Take a look at California, where the Democrats gained 6, 7 seats. Take a look across the country. The Northeast, the suburbs in Texas, the suburbs in Georgia, in Arizona, where the Democratic Party really shined in 2018. And it ended up with them in the majority. So the Democratic Party currently has a pretty strong hold on the House. I don't think this comes as a surprise to too many people. But I want to take a look at some of these more competitive races. We're not going to focus on really the safe states. I don't really think that is a good use of our time. But let's take a look at the states that actually start being likely for the Democrats. Well, if we take a look at Michigan and we take a look across these battleground areas, in fact, most of these seats that are likely for the Democrats were previously held by the GOP. Now, they were flipped in 2018, or they were relatively close. But if we're looking at the numbers now, the Democratic Party should be very happy with where they stand. In terms of these 26 seats, they're almost certainly going to carry all of them. Now, moving down into the lean districts, these are also areas where Republicans typically held on to in 2016 that lost them in 2018, where it looks like actually we do see a return of some representatives trying to rerun for their election bids. If you look at Iowa, I mean, there's only 1 Democrat in 2016 that was elected to the House. Now it looks like 3 will be elected versus 1 Republican. Not only there, but We can take a look at some other battleground states, like I said, California. Some of these races that were actually with Republican incumbents are now safe for the Democrats, or likely for the Democrats, which I think is just fascinating, to say the least. The Democratic Party did something very different in 2018. Combined with the suburban movement towards the Democrats, they increased turnout. 2018 rivaled presidential election years in terms of turnout, and the debate just started between Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris. So if you're watching this video and that's on, go ahead and pause this. Get back to this video after you watch that, but I will be tuning in just a couple of minutes, actually. I am a little bit late just because I got home around 5-6 minutes ago, so I ran up to my room, started recording, but that's what this video is going to be about. We're talking about House elections, not the VP debate. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So pretty much there's a lot to unpack here. I'm not going to spend too much time. Like I said, I'm trying to finish this up before we watch the vice presidential debate. But looking at the numbers, I mean, the Republican Party cannot take this as a plus. They have a 6% chance at winning a House that they carried by very solid margins in 2010, even 2012 when Obama won the election. The Democrats didn't even come close to taking back the House majority. Then 2014 rolls around, even more solid for the GOP. And 2016 was when, some people were questioning maybe Donald Trump will bring down the House of Representatives. Realistically, that just wasn't going to happen. And now we saw 2018 where some Republican pundits were still expecting to retain the House just because of how large the majority was. But if 2010 proved anything, it's that a very large majority can be overcome very easily. And that's exactly what happened in 2018. 80% of outcomes fall into this range, where the Democrats range from anywhere from 221 seats to 253 seats, which honestly is pretty insane to me. The most likely outcome is right here with a 3.4% chance, where the Democrats are expected to carry 237 seats. That's where the average is. I think that's also pretty important to note. 237 should be a number that's closely watched, because if the Democrats do outperform 237, for reference, in 2018, the House projection was expecting the Democrats to gain at most 30 seats. They ended up gaining 40, so they did much better than what the House seats projected. But if we're looking at the projections now, it looks like they won't be making too many substantial gains. There will be some crossover, some districts returning to the Republican Party, some districts moving back to the Democratic Party. If we're looking at Oklahoma's 5th district, the Republican is the favorite despite having a Democrat incumbent. There could be some races that we're not really focusing on that have competitive outcomes that the Democrats could possibly win despite it being rated as safe for the Republicans. That was the example of Oklahoma's 5th. In 2018, nobody expected it to go to the Democrats. In fact, it was safe, according to numerous political pundits, for the GOP. The Democrat ended up winning it, but now it looks like the Republican is going to win it just because it is a presidential election year. But all in all, I mean, the Democratic Party did very well in 2018, and it looks like they are on track to retain the same exact numbers from 2018. In fact, they could possibly win even more. There's 233 Democratic seats up for election. That leaves, I believe, there are some vacancies right now, but there's one Libertarian seat, which puts the Democrats at 234. I believe that means there are 201 Republican races remaining because of California's 25th district. Now, if you look at California's 25th, actually, David Garcia, I believe, is the favorite to win, if we find it. Maybe not. I could be wrong about that. Oh, actually, no. Christy Smith is now the favorite to win it. I think that one actually might have gone back and forth, or at least it was very, very close. It was rated as lean for the Republican Party, I believe, by the Cook Political Report. It moved back into the to the toss-up column. So what we're looking at is that a number of races that were competitive, whether it was a special election or a regular election, that the Democratic Party is doing well in. They're actually expected to gain seats. Not a lot. 4 is the average amount that we're seeing for the Democrats, but obviously that's not bad when they already have a very solid majority over the Republicans. So major takeaways here is that the House races have not really changed. I've seen some comments from people who expect the race to narrow up in the House, possibly the Republicans win back control, but realistically that just isn't going to happen. The Democratic Party, while they will do well on the presidential level and the Senate level, they probably aren't going to see anything similar to 2008. But if we're looking at the 50 most competitive races, you can also see that Oklahoma's 5th is the, in fact, closest race. Indiana's 5th is also, it seems weird, 5th and 5th is also going to be one of the closer races. So what we see here is just a number of close races from 2018. So we will see possibly a return of support for some of these candidates. Now, the closest, I guess not the closest, but of the 50 closest races, Virginia's 2nd District is the last one where the Democrat has an 83% chance of victory. But all in all, the races are competitive. We're likely to see some possible flips, some possible solidifications in some of these battleground districts, but the Democratic Party is definitely at a very strong point with a 94% chance at retaining House control. The Republicans have absolutely no shot, which is exactly why the Senate is their best bet. The presidential race is a little bit smaller of a best bet, but Biden has now expanded to an 84% chance at victory, which I think is just fascinating, to say the least, considering we're 27 days until the election? Very close. So go ahead and watch that debate. If you ended up watching till the end of the video, the vice presidential debate should be on by the time this is uploaded. I mean, it's on right now, so absolutely will be. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord link for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2020 election videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.